Today we'll be talking about the newly redesigned Civis AI feature Taxonomer, which allows for effortless text categorization. And before we get into the meat of the content, just wanted to go over a few logistics. So we've set you all at viewer status as you've joined. So if you do want to ask a question or make a comment, you can go ahead and navigate to the meeting tools in the bottom right corner and click on Q&A, and then you're able to post questions through the Q&A feature. We'll monitor those throughout the presentation. And if there's anything that requires an answer right away, we'll go ahead and answer it. Otherwise, we'll circle back at the end and provide responses. And I did want to take a few minutes just to introduce the speakers that we have today. So we have Amos Buddy, Tyler Landry, Dustin Leatherman, and Mike Heilman. Amos and Tyler are going to talk through a high-level overview of Civis in general and then walk through the demo. And Dustin and Mike are here as the data scientists and engineers behind the tool. Dustin's going to talk a little bit about model selection, and Dustin and Mike will be here to answer any questions you might have about the more technical pieces. So thank you to both of them for joining us today, as well as Amos and Tyler for presenting. So now I'll pass it off to Amos.
Thanks, Laura. And thanks everybody for joining. It's nice to see lots of familiar faces in the chat list. I'll be brief. I just wanted to kick this off as like, why did we build and invest time in the AI Taxonomer tool? We work with data teams and analytics teams very closely. And one of the things that is very interesting is that many organizations are completely ignoring an entire class of data that is really valuable. And that is the data that is not easily analyzed. It is customer feedback. It is the voice of your constituents in their own words. Typically, data teams and analytics teams have avoided working with that because it's hard to work with, and there isn't a way to kind of translate that information and those insights at scale. But given the revolution in generative AI and large language models, we can now unlock insights from unstructured data sources and drive impact at scale. And I think it's really interesting to talk about it. And that's why we made this investment that we'll talk more about later. I know a lot of folks on this call are familiar with Civis. I see a lot of customers that we know or folks that we've met with. But I just wanted to level set for anybody who's new. Civis Analytics, our mission is to help mission-driven organizations with data and analytics, technology, and services. We've been around for 12 years. We've had the opportunity to work with some of the most impactful NGOs and organizations in the United States. And we've been really privileged to be able to be their data and analytics partner throughout that. One of the things that sets Civis apart is that we bring both technology and the kind of NGO nonprofit expertise. We want to make sure that we're supporting our partners through the entire journey. So not just providing technology and that's it, but that might mean just like working alongside with consultants or through our solution architects like Tyler to make sure that you're getting the actual things that you need from your data and analytics work. And before I turn it over to Tyler, just to level set, what is Civis? Civis is an end-to-end data analytics platform that brings together the core infrastructure for a data platform. And it helps organizations work effectively with data. Our goal is to be kind of the single software provider for all of these different kind of core use cases, to do that in a way that doesn't require you as a customer, having lots of vendor contracts to manage, having to manage your cloud resources, or a lot of system integrators to do that for you. Just tools integrated together in a single platform that works for you. And we'll talk about this feature that is very squarely in the analytics and AI workbench. So this is a new feature that is going to support that core use case. I also just want to say, related to this, is that in 2025, Civis has expanded its mission to include something that we see as really important for data analytics. Maybe that's obvious right now. We're talking about generative AI. And we want to be partners with folks on this journey. It's really clear that large language models have a big role to play in data analytics work of the future. And we are already seeing our customers kind of get a lot of it, value out of the work that we are doing to embed generative AI tools in our platform. Knowledge retrieval via chatbots, developer productivity with in-browser copilots and things of that nature. Qualitative research, which is what we're going to talk about today. And then also kind of more service-led, like human-in-the-loop automation. So having LLMs and humans work together to accomplish a complex task. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tyla to talk about what our taxonomer tool does, and then show you how it works.
Thanks, Amos. So what is Civis AI Taxonomer? So like it says here, it's an AI-powered tool that lets users analyze and classify text data at scale. It's available to all Civis customers and can be embedded into any new or existing analytics workflow. And we will go into that in just a second here. And then just to give you some use cases. I just want to talk about what this tool enables. So the beauty of Taxonomer is that you can immediately start analyzing your unique data without spending months creating training data sets. So for example, for program analysis, which we'll focus on in the demo, this is more than just sorting. It means you can use these categories to assess eligibility for a grant. You can prioritize which opportunities to go after, and you can even assign the right department to review and apply. For donor engagement, it means you can analyze donation notes to understand gift motivations, and that can help you tailor your stewardship. And then for survey research, you could label open-ended survey question responses, and then you can also categorize feedback. So there are a lot of different use cases for Taxonomer. The key is that you define the categories that matter to your mission, and then you let the model kind of do the labeling. So I'm going to jump into the platform in just a second here. Just go ahead and switch screens here. All right. Is that visible to everyone? Let me get a little bit bigger. All right, so if you're familiar with Civis platform and the user interface, you'll be familiar with this query screen here. We're gonna just take a look at a synthetic grant data set. Let's say that I'm a program director who's looking to take this table with thousands of grant proposals, which has a unique ID here, opportunity ID, and opportunity title, which is just the title of the grant application. And we'll use these two in Taxonomer in just a moment. But let's say my goal is to understand the distribution of these proposals across the key program areas so that we can make better strategic decisions. So to do that, I'm going to use Taxonomer to label the text and get some insights. So to get to Taxonomer, you would just use the navigation bar here under Civis AI. You would click Taxonomer here, and then it'll generate an empty script from the script template. I'm going to go into one that we've already done just for the sake of this demo and for the sake of time. This is our Taxonomer demo that's really taking data from the data set that we just saw that exists in Civis platform. So the first thing I'm going to do, of course, is put everything into the schema table. You're going to tell it which column to use as the text to analyze. And that would be the opportunity title that we just looked at. And then the identifier column, which was the opportunity ID. You select that from the dropdown. And down here in the prompt configuration, we're going to want to be as precise as we can, just to give it some good context. So I just wrote, a description of a grant proposal from a nonprofit, just to give it an idea of what my specific task is. And moving down here, we can see the categories. The categories that we're using here, I have 6 of them here. They're just general buckets that these grants could fall into. For now, we're going to leave the add examples empty, just so we can see how the model performs at baseline, just to see what we get for the sample responses. And let me just scroll down so just so you can get an idea of what these are here. Now this output settings here, you're only going to process a sample for this first run, just so we can see what it's looking like. So we're going to keep that checked. I'll go through the output table and everything in just a second, but this is just for the sample. We're going to click 20 and choose 20 as a sample size, and then we're going to click run. I've already run it, so I'm going to go to the most recent run here. And just to show you, it really only took about 39 seconds for that sample of 20. So it's pretty quick. So let me open this up here. This is how you would see the preview for the taxonomer run that you just did. And you can see the categories here, the opportunity titles that we saw from the data set. And let's say we want to do some refining here. So we see that this was categorized as environment and agriculture, but we want it to actually be categorized as higher education or education, arts, and humanities. So that's where this toggle comes in here. When you're on run arguments, you're looking at the configurations that produce the results that you're seeing. So that obviously is unchangeable. These are your past configurations. And when you switch to current arguments, you'll be able to edit all of those. So what we're going to do here to make those edits and to add this example to refine the model, I'm just going to take that title and add it to the example section of education, arts, and humanities right here, which I've already done. And then we're going to rerun it. And once that's rerun, which you can actually see on this tab, once that's rerun, we can see that now we have this higher education grants application title listed as education, arts, and humanities. So, it's really good for you to be able to see your iterations as you're sort of refining your model and telling it to really give you the categories that really make sense for your task. So I think that's where the new iteration workflow is really effective. And after running it again, you can kind of run it until you're satisfied. The final step is to actually run the job on your entire data set. So let me just go down to the output here. And this is where you would designate your output schema, the table, and we'll talk about model selection in just a minute. But then you would uncheck only process a sample, and then it'll run through your entire data set. This was 70,000 records, so I've already run it. And we're going to go back to query to take a look at what Taxonomer did for us. All right, so back in query here, I'm just going to show you the original data really quick, just so you can see pretty easily with a SQL query what that might look like visually and how messy it is. So that's really just kind of what we don't want. This is really messy data. It's really not easy to analyze or do anything with. That's where we started before Taxonomer. But if we can use our categorized data, we can turn this into a real insight. So give me 1 second here. I'm actually going to use SQL AI Assist, one of our other new features, to generate a SQL query to join our results to our original table, and then summarize by the categories that these titles were put in, and by the average award ceiling, which is another column in the data. So you can see here, this is the entire, let me just go back here so I can put this down a little. You can see the entire query that was generated. I'm going to accept here. and run that quickly. All right, so you see we have our categories that we've generated with Taxonomer. We have the average award ceiling for each category, and we have the actual count as well. So let's just say we wanted to look at that in graph form. It looks a lot cleaner, a lot easier to perform for the analyses, show to your team members. It's really really nice to be able to take this messy list that we had and turn it into a clear, actionable chart. So now here we can see that community and economic development grants have on average the highest award ceilings. And yeah, this is the kind of insight that can inform strategic decisions for your organization. Because this all is in Civis platform, the entire process can really be automated. And that's what I wanted to talk about next, just briefly. Automation is really key for the Taxonomer tool. While the UI, it really does provide a great way to configure and test your job, the real power comes from being able to automate it and include it in your other processes and pipelines. Because Taxonomer does operate as a script template in platform, you're able to easily integrate it into your existing data. So really, it really seamlessly integrates with your data environment. Inputs are drawn from your Civis managed Redshift or your connected data warehouse. The outputs are clean tables that can be joined with facts and dimensions, used to populate dashboards, trigger follow-up actions, or can be incorporated into modeling pipelines. So like, for example, you can schedule jobs with Civis Workflows and manage these Taxonomer jobs with everything else, just like every other script and every other object and platform. So you can run it daily, pull new grant opportunities from another source, process them with your configured Taxonomer job, and then automatically update your reports. So you can definitely use workflows with Taxonomer. You can also configure and run these jobs programmatically using our API. So it just provides a lot of flexibility to integrate with everything else you do in Civis platform and your existing data pipelines. And before we wrap up, I just wanted to talk about model selection. And for that, I will hand it over to Dustin.
Thanks, Tyler. We've launched Taxonomer with 3 models available out of the gate: Meta's Llama 4 Maverick, Anthropic's Claude Haiku 3.5, and Anthropic's Claude Sonnet 4. For your first Taxonomer jobs, we recommend starting with the default model, which is Llama 4 Maverick, as it offers the best classification performance for its price and speed. That was determined doing some in-house evaluations, comparing all the different models available that are out there, with 4 data sets, 3 of which were sentiment analyses tasks, and 1 which was a fake news detection. Well, if your initial results are lacking, or you find yourself wanting, or you want to try out Claude, you might find that Claude will perform better for use cases that involve highly technical language, specialized language, or kind of complex, nuanced topics, such as the fake news detection task. With Taxonomer, we give clients the flexibility to choose between these 2 leading model providers, and that choice allows you to align your workflows with the model that fits your needs best. Each model is governed by its own acceptable use policy, and the use of Taxonomer has to comply with the relevant policy listed. Those are available online, but we also make them available through our documentation. At the top of the Taxonomer job, you'll find a link to our Zendesk docs, which contain the links to Meta's and Anthropic's acceptable use policies. Because these terms are always being updated, we recommend staying on top of the latest changes. For example, Anthropic just updated their terms of service this week. That's all I have. Back to you, Tyler.
Thanks, Dustin. So to just summarize, our new taxonomer tool really empowers you to categorize your unstructured text, normalize messy data, and really rapidly iterate on your results. And now we're going to move to our question and answer portion. If there are any questions for the team.
I don't see any questions in the chat just yet, but we'd love to hear. Oh, I see a hand here. Let me see if I can get you to be able to speak. Hey, Brooke, I think you should be able to ask your unmute and ask your question now. Sorry, Brooke, we're not able to hear if you're speaking. Try unmuting.
Also,
So sorry.
oh yeah, great.
I had wanted to say that, but I think before we weren't able to type in a message, but that's active now, so that's great. Thank you for that. And then the second question was, do y'all have recommendations for which LLM to use based on an advocacy organization that does have some of that like C4 activity that when we read Anthropic's terms of use initially, there was some of that like language around politics that looked a little scary for us. So do y'all have expertise in recommending like the way that you've seen those changes happen over time for those LLMs?
I think we would need to talk a little bit more about the specific use case. I did notice recently in our general counsel flagged that Anthropic has recently changed and made their terms of use more expansive in what is acceptable use for them. So you could check that out and see if the new terms you feel like matches what you're trying to do. We're happy to kind of weigh in, but at the end of the day, I think it's a judgment call based on whether or not your reading of the terms and your use case match. So, thanks, Brooke.
Go ahead, Anna. I think you should be able to unmute now.
Yes, thank you. So just to recap, this in our use cases, it would be interesting for the sort of qualitative survey data collection. And so would we create labels based on keywords that we're looking for in the responses, or yeah, I guess like what is your recommended approach for how to create labels that are like exhaustive, and what part of the data is the AI tool looking for to match the content with the label?
I'm happy to take a first stab, and we have done some work with that exact use case. So taking surveys, open-ended verbatim responses, and trying to classify and label them. You could start by in an iterative approach. One of the things I really like about the taxonomer tools that you get a very quick feedback cycle between applying, creating some categories, applying it to a sample data set and seeing the results. And so you can sort of make judgments based on, hey, this category was too expansive, or actually I want to be more specific, and you can kind of do that on your own. Alternatively, Civis has a different AI integration, which we call AI Core, which you could literally send, 5,000 or whatever, some sample number of survey responses with a prompt that says, can you help me come up with categories that is exhaustive? And if you do that, it will return back a list for you, having read through the number of responses that you sent it, and you can use that as an input for Taxonomer. So that's kind of two different approaches depending on how you want to take it. And yeah, we're happy to share a little more information about how to do either one.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It sounds like it's almost like in the second example you used, as if you were doing qualitative data collection, it would like spit back sort of the mode, like the themes that it's finding. And so that sounds like it'd be really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, totally.
Any other questions, you can feel free to put them under the Q&A, or if you raise your hand, I can make it so that you can unmute. Okay, Catherine, you should be able to unmute now.
Okay, so would the same thing apply to trying to match a historical event to a range of terms that might be used?
If the historical event is in the form of text, then yes. So if you have an event, if you have in your table, you have a table and a column that is events, and event could be like tariffs introduced, and then you could try to categorize it to another category of interest. That would work in the same way.
Well, I guess what I'm specifically is if you have, say, a name of a vessel, and that vessel happened, be used in 1812, and then you have a name of something else that relates to some fort that was active in 1812. Would it be able to categorize them as 1812?
Yes, it could. It may take some iteration, and that's where you could use the tool to iterate and add examples in cases where you're finding it's misclassifying. But yes, it could absolutely do that. No problem.
Okay, great. Any other final questions to ask the team? All right, well, we're just about at time. So thanks everyone for joining us. We're excited to hear how you're using the tool. So please let us know if you come up with a use case and test it out, and let us know how it goes. And we're here to answer any questions. Happy to help.